Hey everybody, today we're talking about the final days of Superman. Hey everybody, welcome back to BK's Bullets. As always, I'm your host, Brent Casina, and today we're reviewing some more Superman. This is maybe the finale of the Summer of Superman here on BK's Bullets. I'm not sure. Maybe we'll get one more, and I'm trying to read All-Star Superman before the film comes out, so we'll see if I can do that and get the review up just in time, since it seems to have heavily influenced the tone of the movie, so that would be interesting. But I was looking for something quick to read the other day, and came across this on my shelf, and I was like, well, I can read this. This is interesting. It's a little beat up because it's an old library copy I bought from somewhere. So anyway, this is how the New 52 Superman died or disappeared prior to the events of Rebirth, right? So immediately following this, you have, the DC Universe Rebirth event, and then the Superman run with Peter Tomasi and Patrick Gleason, and the Action Comics run by Dan Jurgens and Patrick Zurcher. I don't think I have any of those trades. I think I just have this sucker. But I don't believe Superman is in this much, is to my recollection. If it is, it's the older bearded Superman. I think it's mostly Batman and Flash. Yeah, just paging through this thing. So anyway, let's talk about Superman. Yeah, this is mostly a Batman and Flash storyline with some Adam stuff in here, which makes sense because they got rid of Superman in this book. So what is this? This is 8 issues. This collects issues of Superman, Action Comics, Batman, Superman, and Superman, Wonder Woman, which was basically all the Superman books at the time, except for Supergirl. I think Supergirl had been canceled before this. She does make an appearance in here, but it's all written by Peter Tomasi, who went on to do the Superman book with Patrick Gleason that introduced John and started the Super Sons and all that stuff. That's where that comes from. So this is kind of set up for his run also. And it's got art in here from Mikel Janin, Paul Pelletier, and Doug Mahnke as well. Oh, gosh, there's one more artist I can't remember. I think that's about it. Well, let's double check. Ed Benes is in here. Del Egosham helping out. Jorge Jimenez does an issue. There you go. Okay, so I didn't miss anybody. Anyway, so this is 8 issues. So 2 issues of each of those series. And basically, it starts out with Superman with this wonderful issue with Mikel Janin art. I don't know if it's Janin or Janin. Anyway, he was killing it way before he jumped on this is before he did the Tom King stuff with Batman, right? And he's doing Detective Comics right now. So this is, almost 10 years ago. His artwork has been consistently good for almost 10 years, and that's incredible to say. Maybe his style hasn't changed at all, but I don't know. I think he's all digital, honestly. He's a phenomenal artist. But there's the first issue here is this New 52 Superman saying he's dying. And he's giving a long laundry list of reasons of why. You have the events of the Darkseid War here in the Justice League book that's going on. You had some events here from Greg Pak's run and Gene Luen Yang's run of Superman Action Comics with some kryptonite overdosing, and then a fight with Rao, which I believe was in the Justice League, the JLA Brian Hitch book that came out right before he relaunched the Justice League title on the Rebirth saga, right? Okay, so we got all that in. So it's basically like he's dying of overproduction or overexposure of kryptonite, and the radiation's getting to him, so he's consistently getting weaker. And so he's going and telling all his buddies that he's dying, and he's coming to terms with it. Like the second issue is him and Batman, drawn by the incredible Doug Mahnke, who goes on to do a Detective Comics run with Peter Tomasi shortly after this on Rebirth, I believe. Yes. And that's a phenomenal run if you haven't read that. Peter Tomasi just killing it all over Rebirth, apparently. And then you have him with Supergirl and Paul Pelletier doing art. It doesn't say what issue these are from. Like, I'm assuming the Superman Batman stuff is from Batman Superman, that title. The Supergirl stuff, I'm not sure what title that's from. I'm assuming this one is the Superman Wonder Woman book, because that would just make sense, right? And then with the Ed Benes art in here. So most of that's going on, and then at the same time you have another character who has absorbed some energy from Superman when he used his solar power, which was a new thing that Jeff Johns developed in his Ulysses storyline with art by John Romita Jr. That was shortly before Gene Luen Yang's run on, I believe it was the Superman book, right? So anyway, somehow this power got into some other dude, a normal human, and he thinks he's Superman. But his version of Superman is basically like a glowing, flaming version of Superman, almost as if Superman was the Human Torch. So they're trying to figure out where he's coming from and how to stop him because he's really, really powerful. You have a confrontation with the Great Ten in here. It's very interesting. Ultimately, it does end up that, this New 52 Superman does pass away. In the last two issues, you get, I'll call Bearded Superman, which is from the Lois and Clark series, I believe it was called. There's like a little mini series where this is coming out of the Convergence event, where we established that there was a remnant of Lois and Clark somewhere coming out of Convergence that made their home on the New 52 planet, had a son, Jonathan, and raised him. And this is the Superman that does take over during Rebirth. He shaves during, not this book, but I went on to read the Rebirth, Superman Rebirth one-shot on my iPad. And I was like, what happens after this? Thinking that they were going to explain what happens to Superman and all these characters. So basically coming out of this book, you have one Superman, because both of the other two are, the Imposter and the New 52 one does pass away very definitively. And you have one Superman from the Convergence event, his Lois. And you also have this New 52 Lois. So it's like there's two Loises, and I don't remember how they converged at some point. And I know they made that bearded Superman get all the old memories during the Superman Reborn event or crossover in that book. I don't know what happened to the Loises. And I know, there was something with in Action Comics with the Dan Jurgens run where he introduced another Clark Kent that didn't have powers either. So if anything, this book makes me more interested to go and reread those Rebirth books to see how it all, came together, as opposed to being like something you could recommend to people, you know what I mean? It's very interesting. I think it does a pretty good job of telling a story about how this version of Superman dies. But ultimately, it's just a farewell to a version of Superman that no one really jumped on with or took a liking to. I think the idea of telling Superman's origin again was an interesting one that Grant Morrison was doing in Action Comics like Superman Year One. Ultimately, they didn't stick with that idea and, just kind of went elsewhere. So Superman, I think, suffered during the New 52 because you had people on Detective Comics that were doing great stuff. Tony Daniels started off doing awesome stuff there. And then you had, obviously, Scott Snyder doing his Batman run, which lasted the whole era of New 52, right? That went all the way through, I think, issue 50 or 51, except for the last issue before the Rebirth event. So Batman was thriving. Meanwhile, Superman and Action Comics had a number of writers, all of whom couldn't seem to get a grasp on what they wanted to do with the character. So I don't know if DC just didn't know what to do with them. I think the relaunch thing kind of stumbled them a little bit. Maybe they should have relaunched everybody all at once, or maybe they should have had a plan saying like, hey, Superman's going to be the current day book and Action Comics is going to be the old book. And we can retell all of Superman's older stories in the new continuity, how we want to tell them that way. I think that was a good hook for that book initially, but when it went away, it was kind of like, well, again, what do you need to do with multiple Superman books when no one is really interested in this version of Superman? Because he had a bunch of relaunches with the Man of Steel, with Secret Origin, with, Infinite Crisis, and this one, and now Rebirth, New 52, like there's so many. So yeah, this is an interesting Death of Superman story. Doesn't feel like a big event, honestly, because it's kind of contained within the super books. Doesn't feel like the rest of the DC universe knows about it until you read the Superman Rebirth one-shot, which is not in this book. That is somewhere else. As you can see, this has the Road to Rebirth title and a little sticker I haven't scratched off yet. But yeah, so I think it's interesting. Just want to talk about it and how how did that Superman die? How did Superman they get rid of that version of Superman? This is how. They just made him sick and had him fight an imposter and sacrifice himself in a Supermanly way, right? Split that word up however you want, right? But it does have some wonderful art and sequences in here. Like this Doug Mahnke spread here is just, just a banger. It's awesome. So yeah, I had fun with it. I had fun with the New 52. I messed with it a little bit. I think I had more fun with it than a lot of people. But again, I was only reading stuff that I liked. And I did jump off the Superman books for quite a while. And I think I came back with this storyline to see how they were going to wrap it up. And it was like, oh, okay. So the nice part about this, if you do find it out in the wild somewhere or order it online, is that you don't have to go and reread all the older Superman stuff to understand it. Just, go for it. Go with it here because it's really a coda to that era of Superman. Unfortunately for him. So thank you guys for watching. As always, we will see you guys next time in the funny pages. Leave me a comment down below to tell me what you thought of the New 52 Superman and his death.